Hi everyone, we're back with the second video in the story of Rahab, which we were reading the last time, and I've been looking at that for a couple of days, and it comes from the book of Joshua. And again, we talked about Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua. So it's the sixth book of the Old Testament, and we decided that I had looked at the fact that Joshua was getting ready to lead the Israelites into the promised land. And before he did that, he sent in some spies to figure out the lay of the land, okay? And the spies went to a house of someone named Rahab, who was a prostitute. So this would have been an inn of some kind with where the women who ran the inn were just, making money on the side doing prostitution, which probably would have been quite common in those days, at an inn that was right by the outskirts of the city, right by the wall where these spies came in. So eventually the king gets wind of this, that there might be some spies, and he sends people, messengers, and they quiz Rahab about that, say, bring out these Israelites. And this is in Joshua 2, verse 4. Rahab had hidden the two men, but she replied, yes, the men were here earlier, but I didn't know where they were from. They left the town at dusk as the gates were about to close, and I don't know where they went. If you hurry, you can probably catch up with them. This is verse 6. Actually, she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them beneath bundles of flax that she had laid out. I was reading one of the notes in this Bible, because this is a study Bible, so it has different information at the bottom, and I was thinking about why the roof, like that wouldn't be my first choice, the roof. But apparently this flax would have been harvested around that time, and in order to use it, they dried it first. So they laid it on their roofs to dry it, and then they bundled it up, and eventually it was made into yarn, and then eventually into linen. So these would have been about 4 feet tall, probably, or 5 feet tall. So this was a good place for her to hide them, because it would have been very typical for her to have flax drying on the top of the house like that. So that she hid them underneath the bundles of flax. So the king's men went looking for the spies along the road leading to the shallow crossings of the Jordan River. And as soon as the king's men had left, the gate of Jericho was shut. So she knows she's sending them out at the time. First of all, she's sending them on a wild goose chase because the spies did not leave, right? But then beyond that, she knows that once they leave, the gates will be shut. They won't be able to get back in until tomorrow morning, and until, by then she will have already taken care of this situation. So before the spies went to sleep that night, Rahab went up on the roof to talk with them. And this is really interesting, the things that she says to them. She says, I know the Lord has given you this land, she told them. We're all afraid of you. Everyone in the land is living in terror. So you think only the Israelites knew that God had given them that land? No. Everyone knew that God had given them that land. Okay? Everyone knew, because word gets around, about something like that. So she already knew that the Israelites, that God had promised the Israelites that they would have passage and learn and own the land in the promised land. She says, for we have heard how the Lord made a dry path for you through the Red Sea when you left Egypt. So remember the miracle of the Red Sea. That kind of a thing, that kind of an event, it doesn't say a secret, people say, did you hear what happened to those Israelites? And they pass along information. And it would have been quite a astounding miracle to pass along. So these people that lived in Canaan, they had heard about these Israelites, and they heard that their God had already made a dry path for them through the Red Sea. So she says, for we have heard how the Lord made a dry path for you through the Red Sea when you left Egypt. And we know what you did to Sihon and Og, the two Amorite kings east of the Jordan River, whose people you completely destroyed. They've already heard about the battles as well. And they know that wherever the Israelites have gone, they have conquered. Okay? No wonder our hearts have melted in fear. No one has the courage to fight after hearing such things. For the Lord your God is the supreme God of the heavens above and the earth below. What a statement of faith from this woman. First of all, she wasn't a Jew, so she was a pagan. Second of all, she was a prostitute. It's not like she was living some holier than thou life, you know? And yet, there was something about the stories that she had heard about these Israelites that she just knew they were true. And she just knew that their God was the supreme one God. What I think is interesting about that is a couple of years ago, I did this study at my church called Joining Jesus on His Journey. And it was a study about how to witness and tell people your faith. And one of the things that it talked about is recognizing that it's not our job to save someone. We are simply messengers, okay? God does the saving. And He is at work in people's hearts before we get there. Our first job is to show them love. To show them love. Not to think, well, it's my job to tell them all about God. No. My job is to love them and see what Jesus is up to in their walk already. What has God been doing in their hearts? What kinds of problems are they wrestling with? What kinds of questions do they have? And to address those and join Jesus in whatever He's doing is a work in that person's life. And for us to sit back and say, well, I can't talk to God. I can't talk about God to that person because after all, they are not going to listen to that. You know, they've already got their mind made up, and you know, I know her. She's not going to listen. You know, we sometimes stop ourselves from talking to people about the good news because we assume that they don't want to hear it or that they're not going to be open to hearing it. But you don't know what God is doing in their lives. I'm sure these spies that came in here did not expect Rahab to act that way and to say to them, your God is the number one supreme God. She did not come about that by herself. That is God working in her heart ahead of time, preparing her, getting ready for her to hear what the Israelites have to say and to learn more about the one true God. Okay, she was ready and open to hear about the one true God because of these miracles that she had heard of and the rumors that she'd been hearing about the Israelites. And so we just don't know where somebody is in terms of what they need to hear. But we do know that God in Jesus is working in people's lives already. It isn't all up to us. It isn't for us to decide, well, this person would maybe be a good candidate to hear the good news, but that one, no, she's not gonna listen. You know, we can't make that judgment. We don't know. Some of the people that you would least suspect are going through something where God is using that to bring them closer to Him. And so this is what happened with Rahab. She was a pagan and a prostitute, and yet she had an interest in godly things. She said, I've heard these rumors. I heard what God did in your life. And you know what? That makes me think, your God is the one true God. Okay? So this is what will change people's hearts, is hearing what God did in your life. Okay? So if you say, I don't know about you, but boy, I'll tell you, I don't know how I would have gotten through that without God. You know? That means something to people. They can identify with that. And this is what Rahab identified with. She saw God as powerful in the lives of the Israelites. Sometimes they didn't even see God that powerful, as powerful as she did, I think. So here's what she says to them. Now swear to me by the Lord that you will be kind to me and to my family since I've helped you. Give me some guarantee that when Jericho is conquered, you will let me live, along with my father and my mother and my brothers and sisters and all their families. So she's saying, hey, I helped you. I want me and my family to be saved. Okay? So, it's very interesting also, to me anyway, that God could have chosen anybody to save these spies and for the spies to save. Okay? Because they're going to do both, right? She saved them from the king's men, and they're going to save her when the battle starts. He could have chosen anybody. God could have chosen a rich lady. He could have chosen someone who's very pious. He could have chosen someone who was doing all kinds of good works, giving money to the poor, all of this. Instead of that, he chooses a prostitute. It just goes to show you that the people that God wants and the people that God uses are not always the ones that, with our human eyes, that look like the right prospect. It wouldn't be who we choose, would it? It wouldn't be who I would choose to save the spies, be some prostitute. No. And yet, first of all, Rahab is open to it. She's open and receptive and obviously has an interest in learning about God. And she's a family person. She's got all kinds of family here. She wants them saved too, and she loves her family, obviously, because she wants her, her mother and father and brothers and sisters and all their families to be saved as well. So let's see what these two spies say in response to this. We offer our own lives as a guarantee for your safety, the men agreed. If you don't betray us, we will keep our promise and be kind to you when the Lord gives us this land. And notice they don't say if the Lord gives us this land. They say when the Lord gives us this land. All of them understand that, Rahab and the spies, that God is going to give this land to the Israelites. So they make this little deal here. They guarantee her safety as long as she doesn't turn them in, as long as she keeps her promise. Then, since Rahab's house was built into the town wall, she let them down by a rope through the window. So not only has she lied for them, covered them up with flax, and sent the king's men in an opposite direction from where they were, and concocted this story to save them. Now she puts a rope out the window and lets them escape that way through the town wall. So remember, the gates were shut. When the other men went out, the gates were shut. So there's no way that these spies were going to get back to their people except through a window and down the wall. So she saves them and gives them a rope. So she is really resourceful, very resourceful. So it says, she let them down by a rope through the window. Escape to the hill country, she told them. Hide there for 3 days from the men searching for you. And then, when they have returned, you can go on your way. So she gives them these instructions. She knows that these guys are not going to search for them any longer than 3 days. So she says, just go up into the hills, hide there for a while, and then when these guys come back in 3 days, you can go back to your people and tell them what you've seen here. Give the report for the spies. So she's really giving them a lot of inside information also. Even the fact that she's given them this information that the people are scared and the people don't want to fight and all that, that's very useful information, I think, for an upcoming battle. If you know how weak your enemy is, how they don't want to fight you, they are afraid to fight you because they know that you have God on your side, and you will probably win this the same way you've won these other battles against these other kings. So she really does give them a lot of information. She gives them safety, and then eventually helps them to escape besides that. So I like this lady. She is really, she's a really smart lady, really smart. So she's resourceful. She's willing to help others. She puts her own life on the line, She is courageous, obviously. She's smart, obviously. She's telling them, go to the hill country, wait for 3 days. So she's crafty, and she can use her intelligence that way. And yet, besides all of that, she has a part of her that has a spiritual yearning. That a part of her that says, I've been hearing about this God, and he is the one supreme being, the one true God. And he's on your side. Wow. I'm impressed. I want to know this God, So her courage, a lot of her courage probably does come from the fact that she is filled with faith. And even though she's never really studied or learned the way the Israelites have had the benefit of, the word being given to them through Moses and all of that, and the prophets, she hasn't had any of that. And yet, she is filled with faith. She's filled with faith. Enough so that she lets a rope down and helps them escape. So, that's pretty neat. Okay, so let's see what happens next. Before they left, the men told her, we will be bound by the oath we have taken only if you follow these instructions. When we come to the land, you must leave the scarlet rope hanging from the window through which you let us down. And all your family members, your father, mother, brothers, and relatives must be here inside this house. If they go outside in the street and are killed, it will not be our fault. But if anybody lays a hand on the people inside this house, we will accept the responsibility for their death. If you betray us, however, we're not bound by this oath in any way. So they swear to her that they will make sure that she and her family is saved, but she has to mark off her house some way so that all the men will know it. So that you see this window you just let us down, you put that scarlet rope right down there, we'll know that's the house that's not to be touched. And you have all your family come live right in that house with you right there that day, and they'll be safe. If they go out in the street, we don't have any responsibility for what happens to them, And they say to her, now, if we leave and you rat on us, all bets are off, I don't have to stick to this oath if you go and tell on us. So they come to an agreement. So she's very resourceful, she's intelligent, she's crafty, she's got genuine faith, and she also has love for her family. Now, all of those. Her one bad thing is the way of life she's chosen, But the thing is, she's a sinner, and aren't we all? Whether your sin is what you consider to be a tiny thing or a big thing like being a prostitute, doesn't matter. Sin is sin in God's eyes. So basically, Rahab doesn't look any different to God than someone who's leading a quote-unquote godly life, because they are also sinning, The fact that he can use someone who has such a great sin and build faith in her is that really is inspiring, I think. It helps you know that God can use anybody, no matter what you've done wrong in the past or what way of life you've chosen. It doesn't matter. And God is obviously calling Rahab, calling her to do her part to save his people and also to rely on him. So she will bring all her family. If she brings them all into the house and puts that rope down, she'll be protected. So that's so far the story here, and we're going to find out a little bit more about Rahab the next time as I look at this story a little more and go in a little deeper and see what other things there are to learn about Rahab. So until then, have a wonderful day for yourself and have a day of courage, just like Rahab.